Guys?
To quote Euphoria from the last week, I'm literally about to get violent.
Hello, Horror Nights and family, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, your home for scary movie reviews and creepy theories I find on the internet. So in this video, because it's Saturday, I'm going to be talking about a horror movie, and as you can tell from the title, I'm going to be talking about Paranormal Activity. Why it became such a cult classic, why I love it, but I'm also going to delve into why I think Micah is the worst. So let's do it. So the year was 2007 and a little film called Paranormal Activity hit screens and scared the shit out of audiences. Steven Spielberg himself even convinced the filmmakers to change the ending. And the writer and director shot the film with his own home digital camera. And this film was so scary that during its first test screening, people were leaving because they couldn't handle the intensity of the film. There was also this air of mystery around the film that spawned a lot of rumors that the footage was actually real, that Katie really was missing, that Micah was dead, and so many other things that made the film what it is now. But what I want to talk about is why I think Micah is the worst. And honestly, if I was Katie, I would have taken the camera and thrown it out the window. And make sure to stay until the end of this video because my reasons may convince you otherwise. And you might agree with me. Okay, jumping right into reason number one, the camera. Right off the bat, Katie is not a fan of the camera that her boyfriend has purchased. You can tell she is uncomfortable, but she's still letting him have his fun. So the reason that he bought the camera in the first place was to try and figure out all of the weird paranormal things that have been happening inside their home. And I'd like to say I think that Katie is also just as curious because we find out from the film that these things have been happening to her since she was 8 years old. Moving on to my second reason, the medium. We learn that Katie is interested in talking to a medium to see what they might think is going on with her and following her. And immediately, Micah is just making entire light of the situation and joking about playing spooky music and asking the medium, like, does he know if there's gonna be traffic? Now listen, I am all for making light of a situation and jobs. I mean, I make fun of myself all the time for being a YouTuber, but I just wasn't a fan of the joking. You can see Katie is also not a fan of him making fun. And make sure you stay until the end of this video because there is a clip towards the end of the film that I have missed on multiple rewatches. Coming in at number 3 is the obsession with the demon. Micah is super obsessed with capturing the demon on camera, even with Katie's continued reservations. When she's talking to the medium, we can tell that she's very shaken from the events that she's talking about, especially when she was younger, like when her childhood home caught on fire and burnt down, and of course the most recent events in her home with Micah. The medium also tells them that entities feed off negativity and that this demon is following Katie and may even try to communicate with her. All right, coming in at number 4 is the Ouija board. So Micah does bring up the idea of buying a Ouija board when the medium is there. The medium immediately tells him not to get one. And if they did get one, the entity will sense that they are trying to communicate with it. And that's opening the door and inviting it in. He once again is joking with Katie about the entire situation. And then he brings it up a second time, to which Katie pretty much says, but then, after a few scary bumps in the night, some very strange EVP recordings, and Katie's having no recollection of the things that she's doing, like ending up outside in the middle of the night, he decides to get a Ouija board. Also, I did a video on the entire history of the Ouija board. Link is in the description if you want to watch that video. And if you like videos like this, be sure to subscribe because I put new videos out like this every single Saturday. So, going back to the Ouija board, Katie is livid when she sees her boyfriend setting this up in their living room. So as the two leave, we see that someone or something is definitely messing with the board. And we see the fire that starts on the board, and of course there's thudding. So they get back from their date. Micah realizes that something has tampered with the board. He's trying to get Katie to help him figure it out. At this point, Katie is just done. In the very next scene, Micah is talking to the camera and basically he's patronizing Katie by making a very half-assed statement that he will abide by the rules. Guys, to quote Euphoria from the last week, I'm literally about to get violent. All right, moving on to number 5, the entity obsession, which is kind of what we covered, but throughout the entire film, he is just constantly antagonizing the demon. He becomes obsessed with the idea with this thing that's haunting Katie. He gets a book on demons and explains how demons can stalk people for years. Katie continues to explain that all of these things that are happening is nothing new to her. And she says to him, if things start to get worse, We are not using the camera anymore. Of course, we know that that doesn't happen. Even as the entity is getting more powerful, it's becoming more vocal, and it's getting much scarier, he is still very persistent with catching literally everything on camera. At this point in the movie, Katie is telling him that this is the most activity that she has ever felt from this entity. And she thinks it's from the camera capturing it all. Also, if you guys like videos where I'm breaking down characters in popular horror films, let me know down in the comments below and I can make more. All right, coming in at number 6 is the baby powder experiment. Once again, just another example of Micah trying to capture the entity on film. While he is doing this, he is just constantly, consistently ragging on Katie, telling her to calm down. At one point, he even says, "Why don't you pop a pill?" Then, of course, we get the very unsettling scene of the footsteps in the powder and the unexplained burnt photo in the attic that is directly above their bedroom. And at this point, having seen the film multiple times, and this is just my own personal critique, I'm getting very much like a brother-sister vibe from the two, not really so much a romantic relationship. All right, coming in at number 7 is the demonologist. There is a short scene in the film where Micah is basically saying, like, I want to bring a demonologist in here. Like, I don't trust it. I don't know what's going to happen to you. I don't want to make the demon angrier. But, like, the irony in that conversation is very funny considering the entire time Katie is just really against everything that her boyfriend is doing. And she does finally really go off on him, which is refreshing to see. Because the thing is, I don't think that Katie is helpless. I think in the beginning, she just wanted her boyfriend to kind of have his fun. But she realized too late that the entity was the one who was in power. And the entity was the one that was in control. I don't want you guys to think that I'm blaming everything on her boyfriend, because I'm not. But of course, if you watch the film, you know they couldn't get the demonologist because he was out of town. So they have the medium come back. The night before the medium comes back, there is a ton of activity. And once again, Micah's just doing the most to piss off the entity. At this point in the film, I believe that Micah is more aware of what he's doing and what he did to entice the entity. As soon as the medium gets there, he takes 2 steps in and then he just walks back out because he senses that this entity is really angry and a lot stronger than it was before. Also, I'm curious if any of you guys watching right now have ever had anything like weird or paranormal happen to you. Let me know in the comments down below because this stuff freaks me out. All right, coming in at number 8 is the final straw. So at this point, Micah does try to kind of help by doing some research on a woman named Diane who was having the same things happen to her as they were happening to Katie. He once again asks Katie for her help, but when Katie is pretty much at her breaking point, she calls him out for all the things that he was doing. They both are getting angry at each other, and he essentially blames Katie for bringing the entity into their home. Now listen, I can understand the frustration here, but at the same time, it's like, you did it, bro. She then runs upstairs. He follows her with the camera, of course, and she's apologizing for her outburst. Mika's basically saying, like, it's okay, but he doesn't really apologize to her. I mean, maybe it happened off camera, but I don't know. He records everything, so. So after their fight, crazy things start to happen. Crazier things start to happen. She is dragged out of her bed. She is bitten. She is laying on the ground holding a crucifix in her hand to the point where she's holding it so hard that we see that her hand is now cut. Micah then says, I'm gonna take care of this right now, takes the crucifix out of her hand and burns it. Not sure what that was supposed to do. I feel like maybe that was like not the good thing to do, but either way, I digress. So as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, there is a scene that I missed on my multiple rewatches, so take a look right now because it's super creepy.
I think we'll be okay now.
The last and final scene of the movie, we see that Katie is under full possession of this entity. She gets out of bed, she stands over Micah for a while, and then she walks out of her bedroom and she starts screaming. Micah jumps out of bed to try and save her. But then, of course, we see the entity throw Micah back into the bedroom, and Katie walks towards the camera with her demented face, and the film ends. Okay, so to end this video, I do believe that Micah got what he deserved. He wanted to be like this big man on campus. He wanted to mess with something that he did not understand for his own morbid curiosity. Even after Katie said not to, even after the medium warned him. He also never once apologized when we were told as the audience that the paranormal activity had never been this active in Katie's life. Now, I understand as a film writer, you have to have the antagonist to provoke the lead, but his provoking was just a little bit too much for me. He came across as very immature, very selfish, very egotistical, and just wasn't listening to Katie. I said what I said, and listen, if you mess with the beast, you're gonna get the horns. I think one of the biggest reasons that this character just pissed me off is because inherently I'm very scared of anything that has to do with demons, anything that has to do with entities. So I am not someone who will ever mess with something like that. So to see a character like this, who is just continuing to push and push and push until he meets his obvious demise, it was kind of just like, well, you had it coming. And listen, at the end of the day, I love this movie so much. So, well, I will rewatch it again because I do hold it in high regard. But, I mean, I don't know. He just always rubbed me the wrong way. And of course, guys, please let me know your opinions down in the comments below, because you guys always have something really cool to add to the element of these videos with your comments, and I always appreciate it. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for me and this video. And if you like these kinds of videos, I have an entire playlist about horror movies in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and you can follow me on my social medias if you want to, and I'll see you soon.